One quick trot. The moment your mind says, quit, is rarely a moment of truth. It is usually a moment of training. It is the mind repeating what it has been rewarded for in the past, escape. Most people don't lose their future in one dramatic collapse. They lose it in small, silent retreats that feel reasonable in the moment. One delay becomes a habit. One excuse becomes a personality. One hard week becomes a story that says, maybe this isn't for me. But the Stoics saw something most people miss. Pain is a sensation, not a command. Fear is a signal, not a ruler. Discomfort is a price, not a verdict. Your life is not decided by what you feel. It is decided by what you do after the feeling arrives. So in this lesson, I'm going to give you a Stoic response you can use the next time your mind tells you to stop. Not motivational noise. Not empty positivity. A disciplined framework, built on the same inner logic that helped people endure pressure, uncertainty, criticism, loss, and long seasons where results were invisible. These principles won't remove difficulty from your path. They will remove weakness from your decisions. And that is a different kind of freedom. Principle 1. Stop making quitting a conversation. The mind loves negotiations because negotiations create delay, and delay creates comfort. The moment you ask, "Do I feel like it today?" you hand authority to your mood. And moods are unstable leaders. They will tell you to rest when you need to move. They will call boredom a warning. They will call discomfort a danger. They will call fear intuition. They will defend the easiest option with perfect logic. A Stoic mind does not treat discipline as a debate. It treats it as a decision. You do not need to win an argument inside your head. You need to obey the standard you already chose. If you decided you train, you train. If you decided you build, you build. If you decided you change, you change. Not because you feel powerful, but because you refuse to let weakness manage your schedule. Here is the contrast that exposes everything. The undisciplined person asks, "How do I feel?" and then builds a day around that answer. The disciplined person asks, "What did I commit to?" and then makes feelings adapt. One lives like a leaf, blown by internal weather. The other lives like a lighthouse, steady in whatever weather arrives. Principle 2. Turn discomfort into proof. Most people think discomfort means something is wrong. The Stoic learns that discomfort often means something is being built. A muscle does not grow by avoiding resistance. It grows by meeting resistance, shaking under it, recovering, and returning stronger. The mind follows a similar law. If you run from every difficult task, every uncomfortable conversation, every boring repetition, you may create a comfortable life, but you will also create a fragile mind. The goal is not to become reckless. The goal is to become resilient. You want the nervous system to learn one sentence: "This feels hard, and I can stay." Because every time you stay, you rewrite the meaning of difficulty. Your mind stops treating resistance like an emergency. It starts treating it like training. Think about water carving stone. It does not win through one violent attack. It wins through presence. Day after day, it returns. The stone stays hard, but the water stays faithful. That is how you build a mind that does not quit. You do not need heroic energy. You need continuity. Principle 3. Measure yourself by principles, not by mood. There is a lie that ruins more lives than failure ever could: "I don't feel strong today, so I must be weak." Feelings are not reliable measurements of capacity. Some of your most important victories will start on days when you feel average, tired, distracted, even doubtful. That does not mean you are broken. It means you are human. Stoicism never promised perfect emotions. It trained imperfect humans to respond with intention. You can feel fear and still take the next step. You can feel tired and still do the smallest required action. You can feel uncertain and still keep your promise. The mind that waits for the perfect internal state will remain dependent on luck. The mind that acts from principle becomes increasingly free. So create a rule for yourself: never make a permanent decision from a temporary emotion. Don't quit your goal because you had a bad day. Don't abandon discipline because you slipped once. Let the emotion pass, then return to the standard. This is not suppression. This is leadership. Principle 4: when you fail, extract instruction, don't accept a verdict. Failure becomes dangerous only when you treat it as an identity. You fail once and the mind immediately writes a story: I'm not built for this. But the event never said that. It only revealed that something in your approach needs adjustment. If you learn, failure becomes a map. If you personalize it, failure becomes a cage. A Stoic asks better questions. What did this expose? What did I underestimate? What habit needs redesign? What environment is weakening me? What skill is missing? Then the Stoic returns, not as the same person repeating the same mistake, but as a sharper person carrying a new lesson. Persistence without learning is just stubbornness. Discipline is persistence guided by reality. And now you understand the first response to the quitting voice. When your mind says, stop, don't panic. Don't argue for 20 minutes. Don't search for motivation like it's a rescue team. Simply return to the smallest controllable action. 1 page. 1 set. 1 paragraph. 1 honest message. 1 step. Principle 5: build a mind that can wait. When your mind says quit, it is often not because the goal is wrong. It is because the reward is delayed. We live in a world that trains impatience like a daily ritual: instant entertainment, instant messages, instant comfort, instant escape. And slowly, without noticing, people start expecting their dreams to behave the same way. They work for a week and demand a transformation. They train for a month and demand a new identity. They try once, fail once, and call it proof that the universe is against them. But the Stoics treated time differently. They understood that anything worth building grows on a schedule that does not ask permission from your feelings. A seed does not announce progress for weeks. Underground, roots spread quietly while the surface looks unchanged. An impatient person digs the seed up and says, nothing is happening. A disciplined person keeps watering, because discipline is not obsessed with proof. Discipline is loyal to process. This is the contrast that separates lives. The impatient mind quits because it cannot see results. The trained mind continues because it understands that invisible progress is still progress. If you cannot tolerate waiting, you will eventually sabotage the very things that require time, strength, skill, respect, mastery, and a life that actually means something. So the next time your mind says, this isn't working, ask one brutal question: have I given this enough time to become what I planted? Not enough time to feel exciting, enough time to grow. Most people don't fail because the path is wrong. They fail because they leave before the compound effect begins. Principle 6: remove the word impossible from your mind. Your mind has a dangerous habit: it turns difficult into impossible before you have even tested yourself. It sees a mountain and tries to climb the whole thing in one thought, then collapses under the weight of its own imagination. A Stoic mind doesn't pretend everything is possible. It refuses to declare defeat before reality demands it. It stays flexible. It stays curious. It breaks the problem down. Here's how you do it in real time. When the quitting voice appears, it usually speaks in absolutes. I can't. This will never work. I'm not built for this. Those are not facts. They are emotional conclusions. So interrupt the conclusion and return to mechanics. Ask, what is the next controllable step? Not the whole plan. Not the whole year. The next step. One email. One page. One set. One call. 1 hour of focused work. A climber doesn't conquer the mountain in one movement. He conquers one ledge at a time. The mind becomes calm again when it stops trying to swallow the entire future and returns to one controllable action in the present. This is why the Stoics emphasized control. Not because control makes life easy, but because control makes action possible. Principle 7. Keep moving when nobody believes in you. There is a loneliness that arrives when you start becoming someone your environment cannot recognize yet. People doubt you because they only see the current version of you. They mock your discipline because it exposes their comfort. They call your ambition unrealistic because it makes them feel small. And if you need their approval before you continue, they do not have to stop you. You will stop yourself. Stoicism cuts through this weakness with one sharp truth: external approval is unstable. If applause can lift you, criticism can break you. A free mind cannot be rented by the moods of strangers. So let people misunderstand you. Let them underestimate you. Let them ignore your effort while your results are still underground. Your job is not to win every opinion. Your job is to build evidence through consistency. And understand this: sometimes nobody believes in you because you haven't given them anything to believe in yet. That's not an insult. That's the process. Dreams become visible after repetition creates proof. Until then, you don't need to announce. You need to show up again. Principle 8. Keep your promises to yourself. Every time you promise yourself you'll do something and you break it, something deeper than the task is damaged. You teach your mind that your own word has no authority. You start living in a silent distrust of yourself. That's why quitting gets easier. It's not because you're weak. It's because you no longer fully believe your own commands. Self-trust is built like a bridge, one beam at a time. Small promises kept consistently become a structure strong enough to carry pressure. Big promises made emotionally, then abandoned, become another reason your mind whispers, "Why even try?" So keep it simple. Make one measurable commitment you can honor even on a low-energy day. 10 minutes. 1 page. 1 rep, 1 paragraph. Then do it. Not for productivity. For identity. Because the strongest form of confidence isn't believing you can do anything. It's knowing that when you decide, you follow through. Principle 9. Remember why you started. When the road becomes heavy, the mind zooms in on pain and forgets purpose. It starts counting the sacrifices instead of the transformation. It starts noticing what you're missing instead of what you're building. And in that tunnel vision, quitting begins to look reasonable. This is where you need something deeper than motivation. Motivation is a spark. Purpose is a furnace. If your reason is only money, attention, or proving someone wrong, it will not survive your worst days. External rewards can start a journey, but they rarely have enough power to carry you through the part where progress is invisible and doubt gets loud. So write your reason down in a sentence that survives discomfort. Not a fantasy. A truth. I'm doing this because I refuse to stay small. I'm doing this because my family deserves a stronger version of me. I'm doing this because self-respect matters more than comfort. Then return to that sentence when the quitting voice appears, because pain makes memory weak. Purpose makes memory strong. Principle 10, train your mind to start again. This is the final answer to quitting, because some days you will slip. You will miss a workout. You will waste an afternoon. You will lose discipline. You will fall back into an old habit. And then the mind will try to turn an event into an identity. I ruined everything. Do not believe it. One bad day is an event. Turning it into a life story is a decision. A trained mind does not demand perfection. It demands return. Restart immediately. Not on Monday. Not next month. Not after some dramatic ceremony of guilt. The longer you stay away, the more comfortable quitting becomes. The faster you return, the more natural resilience becomes. Now, you've heard the principles. But you also need a simple method you can use in the exact moment the quitting voice shows up. So here is the Stoic protocol. Do this every time your mind says quit. First, pause for 5 breaths. Not to relax for show, but to create space. Space is where freedom lives. Second, name the voice. Say, weakness is speaking, or, comfort is negotiating. When you name it, you stop obeying it automatically. Third, reduce the task to the next step. One step small enough that your mind can't argue. Your mind loves arguing with big goals. It struggles to argue with one small action. Fourth, execute immediately. Before the courtroom opens again. Action closes negotiations. That is how you build a mind that doesn't quit. Not by never feeling weakness, but by refusing to let weakness make decisions. Now, let's go one layer deeper, because the quitting voice has a hidden weapon. It doesn't just say, stop. It tries to sound wise. It uses your intelligence against you. It says, be realistic. It says, this isn't the right time. It says, you're tired, rest is self-care. It says, you failed before, so what's the point? And if you don't recognize the pattern, you will mistake self-sabotage for self-awareness. Here's the contrast. A disciplined mind uses logic to build the future. A weak mind uses logic to defend comfort. Both sound intelligent. Only one produces results. So add one more Stoic principle to your arsenal. Principle 11. Treat excuses like weather, not like commands. An excuse is a thought. A thought is not an order. The mind can generate 10 reasons to quit in 10 seconds. That does not mean those reasons are true. It means the mind is trying to reduce pressure by reducing responsibility. You don't need to destroy the excuse with a debate. You need to outlast it with action. Imagine a deep ocean. On the surface, waves are loud, chaotic, and restless. But deep below, it's still. Most people live on the surface. That's why every emotional wave decides their day. The Stoic learns to drop deeper. He lets the surface scream while the depth stays committed. So when your mind throws excuses at you, don't react with panic. Don't attack yourself. Don't spiral into guilt. Just return to the depth, the standard, the principle, the next step. Principle 12. Stop demanding a perfect day to do serious work. This is where people destroy years. They wait for the right mood. They wait for more energy. They wait for life to calm down. They wait for Monday. But life rarely calms down for a person building something meaningful. Responsibilities don't disappear. Fear doesn't vanish. Noise doesn't politely step aside. The only thing that changes is the person who becomes disciplined enough to act anyway. The Stoics never built their philosophy on perfect conditions. They built it on action inside imperfect conditions. That is why it still works. So if you want a practical system, something you can follow without thinking, here it is. This is your 7-day Stoic training cycle. Not because 7 days is magic, but because 7 days is long enough to prove something to yourself. Day 1, the no negotiation day. Pick one task you always bargain about. When the mind opens the courtroom, close it. Do the task at the time you decided. No speeches. No debate. Day 2, the discomfort day. Choose one uncomfortable action you've been avoiding. A hard workout. A difficult conversation. A focused hour with your phone out of reach. Teach your nervous system, I can stay. Day 3, the mood-independent day. Work while you feel ordinary. Not inspired. Not excited. Ordinary. Prove that discipline is not a mood. Day 4, the failure into instruction day. Review a recent setback. Write one lesson. Change one method. Return. Not as punishment, as intelligence. Day 5, the patience day. Do your work without checking results. No scoreboard. No validation. Just process. Just planting seeds. Day 6, the silent confidence day. Stop explaining your goals. Stop seeking permission. Take one action quietly. Let consistency speak. Day 7, the restart day. If you slipped anywhere this week, restart immediately. Not with shame. With clarity. A trained mind doesn't worship perfection. It worships return. If you repeat this cycle enough times, something changes that people can feel when you enter a room. You stop looking like someone who tries. You start looking like someone who follows through. Now, let's close the loop with the one sentence you must remember, because it is the heart of everything you just learned. The mind that never quits is not the mind that never feels weakness. It is the mind that refuses to let weakness become authority. Weakness will speak. Fear will speak. Doubt will speak. Comfort will negotiate, let them speak. But do not let them decide. And if you want one final image to lock this into your bones, remember the river and the stone. The river doesn't win by being dramatic. It wins by returning. One day of effort doesn't make you strong. 1,000 returns do. So the next time your mind says quit, don't ask, how do I feel? Ask, what is the next step? Then take it before the excuses gather evidence. Because action is the only language your future respects. You don't need to be unstoppable today. You only need to refuse to stop. Comment this somewhere you can see it daily, write it on paper if you have to. I will not quit. I will restart.